She stepped out of her shiny white SUV in the middle of my driveway, pointed straight at my backup generator like it was stolen community property, and announced in that syrupy sweet voice every suburban nightmare uses. That gas is HOA emergency property now. Hand it over. No hello, no explanation, just pure entitlement wrapped in a pastel cardigan and a smile that could cut glass. I looked at her, this woman who'd spent the last 6 months painting me as the neighborhood villain, and said the one word she never expected. No. Her perfect smile cracked, like cheap foundation. You could almost hear the gears grinding behind her eyes. 6 months earlier, right after I moved into Willow Creek Estates, Linda Harrington, self-appointed compliance director of the HOA, had slapped me with a $250 fine for my mailbox being the wrong shade of beige. Then came the whispered campaign. I was antisocial. I skipped the potlucks on purpose. I was probably hoarding who knows what in my garage. Neighbors started crossing the street when they saw me. Kids were told to stay away from the weird single guy. I paid every fine, kept my yard perfect, and never said a word. I just watched. I documented. And I waited. Because the guy they'd all decided to hate, he wasn't who they thought. Linda adjusted her pearl necklace like it was body armor. Mark, the HOA has authority in emergencies. This fuel belongs to the community now. You're putting everyone at risk by keeping it. She said it like she was reading from a script written by a committee of Karens. There was no storm coming. No power outage. No declaration. Just her standing there in my driveway on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, deciding my property was hers. I kept my voice even. Show me where it says that in the covenants, Linda. She laughed, that little fake laugh people use when they're losing. Emergencies don't need paperwork, Mark. We all have to do our part. Think of the children. Think of Mrs. Abernathy next door. She's elderly. I almost laughed myself. Mrs. Abernathy was 72, played tennis 3 times a week, and had told me last month that Linda's emergency plans were just an excuse to snoop in everyone's garages. But I didn't laugh. I just stood there with my hands visible, calm as Sunday morning. That seemed to piss her off more than anything. Linda pulled out her phone. Not to call the board. Not to check any bylaws. She dialed 911 right there between my rose bushes and my perfectly edged lawn. Her voice switched to full victim mode. Loud, shaky, performative. Yes, officer, I'm at 1428 Maple Grove. I have a homeowner refusing to comply with HOA emergency protocol. He's hoarding fuel, and I feel unsafe. He's being very aggressive. She wasn't even looking at me anymore. She was performing for the street. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her pace in her little beige heels while she narrated her own hero movie. Neighbors started trickling out. First old Mr. Peterson from across the street, then the young couple with the matching SUVs, then Karen. Wait. No, the other Karen, the one who always agreed with Linda. Doors opened. Phones came out. Linda raised her voice so everyone could hear. He's refusing to share resources. This is exactly why we need strong HOA enforcement. She angled the phone at me and started live recording. See? He's just standing there staring. That's intimidation. I hadn't moved an inch. My hands were still at my sides. But in Linda's world, silence was violence and calm was a threat. The minutes stretched. Sirens never came screaming, just a single patrol car that rolled up slow and quiet like it already knew this was bullshit. 2 officers stepped out, young guy and a veteran with the tired eyes of someone who'd taken too many fake calls. Linda rushed them before their boots even hit the pavement. Officers, thank God you're here. I'm Linda Harrington with the Willow Creek HOA. This man is refusing to turn over emergency fuel that belongs to the community. He's been non-cooperative the entire time, and I genuinely feared for my safety. The veteran officer looked at her, then at me, then at the generator humming softly behind my fence. Sir, is this your property? Yes. And the generator and fuel? Also mine. Linda jumped in like she was on trial. He's hoarding. We have bylaws about shared resources in emergencies. The younger officer raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, is there an active power outage right now? Well, not yet, but any storm warning? Any official declaration from the county? Linda's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. The HOA can declare an emergency when we deem it necessary. That's in the covenants. The veteran officer pulled out his notepad. Mind showing me that section? She didn't have it. Of course she didn't. She never did. The neighbors were fully invested now. Someone had started a group chat. Phones were recording from 3 different porches. Linda felt the audience and doubled down. She paced, gestured wildly, kept repeating community safety and think of the greater good, like a broken HOA prayer. Every time the officers asked her a question she couldn't answer, she spun it back on me. He's always been difficult. We had to find him twice already. He doesn't participate. He's clearly not a team player. I still hadn't said more than 10 words. The veteran officer finally turned fully to her. Ma'am, you called 911 claiming an emergency. Walk us through the immediate threat. Linda blinked. He refused to give me the fuel. That creates risk. What if the power goes out tonight? What if someone needs it? So there's no outage, no fire, no medical issue. You called because a homeowner said no to giving you his personal property? Her face flushed the color of her cheap lipstick. It's not personal property when the HOA needs it. The younger officer was already on his radio, voice low. I caught fragments. No active emergency checking call or possible misuse. Linda pretended not to hear, but her heel tapping got faster. She kept glancing at the growing crowd like they were her jury. Mr. Peterson finally spoke up from his porch. Linda, my power's been on all day. What emergency are we even talking about? She whipped around. This is why we have rules, Harold. You people never appreciate what I do until something bad happens. The officers stepped aside for a longer radio conversation. Linda followed them like a lost puppy in heels. Why are you verifying? I already told you everything. He's the problem here. One officer held up a hand. Ma'am, we're confirming details. Standard procedure. That word, standard, seemed to offend her personally. She crossed her arms so tight her pearls dug into her neck. I'm on the HOA board. I handle compliance. This is an official matter. The veteran officer looked up from his notes. And who appointed you to enforce 911 calls? Linda opened her mouth. Nothing came out for the first time all afternoon. The radio crackled again. The officer listened, nodded once, then looked straight at me with a completely different expression. Not suspicion. Recognition. Copy that. Confirmed. Linda's head snapped toward him. Confirmed what? What are you talking about? The officer didn't answer her. Instead, he turned to his partner and murmured something I couldn't hear. Linda's confidence was visibly leaking out through her pores. The crowd had gone quiet, the kind of quiet that happens right before the villain realizes the hero was undercover the whole time. A second vehicle pulled up, unmarked, but everyone in Willow Creek knew that navy blue sedan. The supervisor stepped out, older, calm, the kind of cop who'd seen every version of this circus. He didn't rush. He took in the scene. The generator, the fuel cans, Linda vibrating with rage, me still standing exactly where I'd been told to stand. Linda rushed him too. Sergeant, thank goodness. This man is refusing. The supervisor raised one hand. I'll get to you in a moment, MS. Harrington. Then he looked at me and gave the smallest nod. Chief Thompson. Sorry for the inconvenience. You could have heard a neighbor's jaw drop from 3 houses away. Linda froze mid-step like someone had hit pause on her personal horror movie. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint right onto my perfectly mowed lawn. Chief, what? The supervisor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. MS. Harrington, the homeowner you called 911 on is Mark Thompson, the new chief of police for Willow Creek PD. He took over the department quietly 6 months ago. Been living right here under your radar. The silence that followed was so complete, I heard Mrs. Abernathy's TV playing Wheel of Fortune 3 doors down. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish that suddenly realized the water had been drained. All the months of fines, the rumors, the he's not community-minded whispers, every single one of them flashed across her face in real time. The supervisor continued, still polite, still deadly. You reported an emergency that doesn't exist. You attempted to seize private property without any legal authority. You used 911 as your personal enforcement squad. We're documenting this as potential misuse of emergency services. Linda tried one last desperate swing. I was acting in good faith. For the neighborhood. He never told anyone he was the chief. The supervisor actually smiled, small, tired, The smile of a man who'd heard that excuse 1,000 times. He didn't have to. And even if he had, it still wouldn't give the HOA the right to confiscate fuel at gunpoint or phone point, I guess. A nervous laugh rippled through the neighbors. Someone's phone clattered as they dropped it. Linda looked around and realized every single person who'd been nodding along 10 minutes ago was now staring at her like she'd just tried to rob a bank in broad daylight. The younger officer stepped forward with his notebook. Ms. Harrington, we're going to need your full statement. And the HOA board will be receiving a formal letter about the limits of their authority. Spoiler, it doesn't include 911 SWAT teams for generator fuel. Linda's shoulders collapsed. The pearls suddenly looked too heavy. She didn't argue anymore. She just gave her name, her address, her title, all in a small, shaky voice that sounded nothing like the woman who'd marched into my driveway an hour earlier. The supervisor turned to the crowd. For everyone watching, HOAs cannot seize private property. They cannot declare emergencies that bypass county rules. And they sure as hell cannot use emergency services to settle petty power trips. If you have a real issue, file it properly. Don't dial 911 because someone said no. He looked back at me. Chief, anything else you need? I shook my head once. I'm good. Thanks for handling it. Linda walked back to her SUV like every step hurt. No final speech. No dramatic exit. Just the soft click of her car door and the sound of tires rolling away slower than they'd arrived. The neighbors dispersed quietly, some embarrassed, some already texting the group chat the new version of events. A week later, the official HOA letter went out to every house. Clear language, no legalese, just the facts. The association has no authority over private generators, fuel storage, or emergency resources unless explicitly granted by law. My mailbox fine was quietly refunded. Linda's compliance director title disappeared from the website overnight. She still lives here. She still waves at potlucks. But the voice isn't as loud anymore. The smile doesn't reach her eyes. And when she sees me mowing the lawn on Saturday mornings, she crosses to the other side of the street faster than anyone else ever did. So tell me in the comments, true or false? Was Linda just a concerned neighbor protecting the community? Or was this the moment an HOA Karen finally learned that real power doesn't need to scream the loudest? Who was really wrong here, the man who quietly said no, or the woman who tried to weaponize 911 to steal his gas? Drop your verdict. I'm reading every single one.